Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great to see you all. We're about almost ready to get started. The gallery is starting to fill up here. It's very exciting. Does anybody have any words of wisdom for us before we get started? Anything at all to share? Even on the lighter side. Come on.
Just a moment of Zen before we start.
Moment of Zen. Oh. Sounds ominous.
We're supposed to be relaxing, but
Zen before the storm?
yeah, there you go.
Minus 1 minute. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything to share? Come on.
Well, I do have one other thing to share, which is my cat is cuter than Brad's cat.
I take offense to that.
As well, you should.
Though my cat had a 10th birthday yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Aw. Now I agree. Everybody, it's 9:30. Welcome to the regular meeting of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Judy, are you gonna take the roll call?
Yes, I will be sitting in the general counsel seat this morning, and I will take the roll call. Mr. Chair. Present? Yes.
Present.
Commissioner Byrd.
Present.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Here.
Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Hall.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Fishman.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum. 5 commissioners are present.
Thank you, Judy. I'm going to ask Commissioner Byrd to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and State Pledge. If everyone would stand here in the gallery. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. All right, members of the commission, you have the agenda as presented. Are there any amendments to bring forward?
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair Hall.
I was wondering, we have one item under Roman numeral 9, discussion and potential action, that I've put on the agenda, and I wondered if it would be possible to have that be taken up between items 7 and items 8, Roman numerals 7 and 8, right before the discussion items, because it's relatively short and easy to get out of the way.
Okay. Any other potential amendments to the agenda? Anything at all? All right, hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Motion by Vice Chair Hall, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote. Judy?
Yes, Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
The agenda has been approved as amended, 5-0.
Thank you, Judy. All right, next up, we have introduction of special guests. We have an employee of the month, and Mr. Brad Borman will be presenting. Mr. Borman and Kat.
And thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As Director of the Legal Division, I am very pleased to recognize Elizabeth Ramirez as the Commission Employee of the Month for April 2022. With your permission, I'll simply read from the certificate that has been prepared for her. Whereas Ms. Elizabeth Ramirez serves as law clerk in the legal division of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. And whereas Elizabeth Ramirez has worked for the PRC for over 13 years. Whereas her nomination states, Elizabeth Ramirez started as a receptionist with the PRC in 2008 and worked her way up to law clerk. She's been an essential part of the legal division since joining us in 2011. She knows everybody, and everybody knows and trusts her, and all of the legal division know we can count on her even in these trying times of the pandemic. Whereas Elizabeth Ramirez continues to serve the PRC with dedication and great ability. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission of the state of New Mexico congratulates Elizabeth Ramirez on her selection as Employee of the Month for April 2022. I will just add personally that of all the things that we do as legal division representing our clients, the utility and transportation division, all of these things flow through our assistants. And if I were to borrow a line from Reggie Jackson from back in my youth, Liz is the straw that stirs the drink in the legal division. So I wish to thank Liz. Commissioners, I hand it to you.
Thank you, Brad. Any comments from commissioners before we have Liz say a few words? Any comments?
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Hall.
Well, I've known Elizabeth for a really long time, since 2008, I think, if she was working here then. I think that's when I started at the commission. And I think Brad summed up a lot. Elizabeth knows everybody, but she also knows what everybody's doing and where they are. And I discovered that when I occasionally had to try to find people over in the legal division. And Elizabeth knew. And if they weren't there, she knew how to get a hold of them. She knew what to do with the papers in my hand. And, you know, she just took care of it. She took care of things. She got them done. And she was a pleasure to work with. And whenever I was in doubt about anything happening over there and I needed answers, my first thought was of Elizabeth. And so I'm really glad she's being recognized because she deserves it. She's wonderful to work with.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall.
You're welcome.
And any other commissioners wish to say a few words? Anybody else?
Yeah, real quickly,
Commissioner
I-
Fishman.
I can't help but reflect on the straw that stirs the drink comment. I want to note that Reggie Jackson said that about himself. And our employee of the month is far more grounded and modest than that. And I think it's appropriate that it's someone else who says that about her. And congratulations, Elizabeth. We're just proud to have you with us.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Anyone else? Well, I'd just like to, echo what's been said. Congratulations, Liz, on this, and thank you for your service to our great agency. And today's your day. Well, actually, it's your month. We were offering premium parking spots at the Para building, but obviously we had to stop offering that. So is there any perks at all? Maybe a parking pass for a month? Brad, anything?
I don't know if she needs a parking pass. I'll let her speak as what does she could use.
Go ahead,
Month
Liz.
off.
Thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate the kind words, Brad. It's awesome to work with you guys. I can't say enough about the legal division. They are amazing people. I mean, I tell them one time that I need stuff to be done in a timely manner and they're on it. I just have a great working staff there. So thank you guys. And I enjoy working for the PRC. I enjoy meeting new people. I just love working with everybody there. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And Brad, thank you for bringing that forward. Congratulations again to you,
Thank
Liz.
you.
All right, let's move on to, we have another special guest here, Rico Gonzalez with El Paso Electric, or someone else will be introducing a new staff attorney with El Paso Electric. Please come forward and have a seat there. Miguel, are you gonna switch very good. We have a new elaborate multi-camera setup now here in the gallery. So
Oh, good.
if you're nodding off in the gallery, we might just get you and catch you doing that. So anyway.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
we can't hear a thing.
Oh, can you-
I can't hear a thing. It's
Can you hear me
complete.
now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and
Yeah,
start over.
I apologize. I just was introducing myself, Nancy Burns for El Paso Electric Company, and mentioning that this is my first time being here in your new building, and I'm happy to be here. I'm very honored this morning to introduce everybody to Miss Amber Baker. She has been hired as a regulatory staff attorney for El Paso Electric Company. She just moved to Santa Fe from Dallas, Texas, where she received an LLM in taxation from SMU. And prior to that, she attended John Marshall Law School. She attended law school while teaching as a special education teacher, middle school, full-time. So she's very, very committed to her new career. And prior to that, she attended Spelman College. So she had spent a lot of time in Atlanta, Georgia. And Amber, I'll let you say a few words.
Good morning to everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored to be working with El Paso Electric. It's just an awesome company, and I've just had a lot of time to get a chance to meet. I kind of feel like I know some of you all because I've been watching videos of the proceedings to see how everything went and what the proceedings look like. So when I'm meeting you all, I have a little doe-eyed look because I'm a little starstruck, I guess. I don't know. Seeing people on TV, now seeing them in real life. So, but in all seriousness, I'm super excited. I'm honored. This is an amazing company to work for. It's an amazing opportunity for me as a new novice attorney. And I'm just excited to be here and to learn as much as I can and to work well with everyone that I come across. And so I look forward to working with you all and having a good experience. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Amber, for coming. Being a middle school teacher, I mean, that's like an occupational hazard, at least it can be.
You are right. You are absolutely right. And that was probably, I shared with Nancy and my interview panel that was probably the hardest period of my life is going to law school at night and teaching during the day. And I'm happy I persevered through it. I would never advise anyone else to do it, but I'm happy I persevered through it. And I committed to my students. They wanted me to see them graduate because I was teaching ninth grade when I started law school. And so they wanted me to commit to graduate. So we all graduated in 2019 together. They graduated from high school and I graduated from law school. So it was a good commitment, but every day I was questioning my decision. But I'm happy to be here and happy that their period is over as well. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Amber, and welcome to Santa Fe, but hold on. Any comments from commissioners? Anything at all?
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair
Go
Hall.
ahead, Cynthia.
Well, I just wanted to welcome Amber too, and it sounds like she's got a tremendous background, and especially being a middle school teacher, I think she's amply prepared to deal with proceedings before the PRC. I don't think it will be as trying, possibly, and I think that's saying something. But I know teaching in school is a very serious challenge. And so I just want to welcome her, and I'm pleased to see El Paso getting young, new brains coming in and working, and I look forward to watching Amber throughout her career, even though I won't be on the commission anymore, but I'll be watching. So very nice to meet you, Amber.
It was nice to meet you also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Fishman.
Yeah, I just wanted to warn Amber that at least I, as a commissioner, have the maturity of a middle schooler. So please prepare yourself.
I thought you were going to say something about Rico that.
She already knows
Paso
about
Electric
Rico.
really-
That's grade school. She already knows about Rico.
All right, settle down, Commissioner Fishman. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Burt.
I can't go without countering Commissioner Fishman's. So I deal with our local schools and I can see that as a great incentive to go ahead and get your law degree. So it's a great motivator to move on. Welcome, Ms. Baker. It is a pleasure to meet you. I also want to thank El Paso Electric for not stealing one of our coveted attorneys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're going to steal her back. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Burt. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Vicente Aguilar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Amber. Welcome to Santa Fe, and congratulations for joining El Paso Electric. I think it's really important that we support individuals like you that start a very, just working with everyday people, children, and then going into a professional field and making extraordinary decisions as far as supporting your organization and joining Rico and Nancy Burns. These are good people that I work with on a daily basis. And Amber, you're at a good place. I congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I agree. It's an amazing place. They are so nice. I really enjoy it. So thank you so much for your welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. And Nancy and Amber, we welcome you back to our sprawling gallery here. That we use a wide angle lens to make it look bigger than it really is. And I'm sorry that you had to watch all those videos. Remember, you can speed them up. You can do it at twice the regular speed. That's what I do. Because anyway, thank you for coming, and we look forward to working with you.
I look forward to working with you all too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. I don't believe we have any public comment.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks, Isaac. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Before we read the captions on the consent agenda, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Judy, will you read the consent agenda, or is that
Yes,
Russell? Okay.
I can do that. We have no transportation matters on the consent agenda. Under utility matters, we have case number 19-00106-UT in the matter of applications for 2020 broadband program support from the State Rural Universal Service Fund as per 17.11.10.31 NMAC. That's the only consent agenda item we have today.
Thank you, Judy. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Judy, please. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
the consent agenda item passes 5-0.
Thank you, Judy. Let's go ahead and move on to regular action items. We don't have any action items under transportation, but we do under utility matters. In the case of 21-33-UT, in the matter of PNM's Electric Integrated Resource Plan for the period 2020 through 2040 in compliance with NMAC 17.7.3.9. Judy, so will you be presenting?
Yes. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this matter comes before you today on a motion Commissioner Maestas requested that we prepare to require PNM to update its integrated resource plan for the period of 2020 through 2040. I'll give you a little bit of background on PNM's case number 21-00033. On January 29th, 2021, PNM filed the 2020 through 2040 Integrated Resource Plan, also known as IRP. On February 10th, 2021, several parties moved requesting a variance from the time frame for approval or acceptance of the IRP. The movements asserted the variance was needed to ensure the commission and stakeholders in PNM's 20 IRP advisory process had an adequate opportunity to evaluate and provide input. Then on February 14th, 2021, the commission issued an order and which denied the motion for an evidentiary hearing on the IRP, but granted a variance from the time frame provided for submission of public comments as set forth in the 17.7.3.12 NMAC, and a variance from utility responses and utility division staff's recommendation. In addition, that order appointed Robert Lennon as a hearing examiner, but not to issue a recommended decision, but to facilitate the process and access to PNM's modeling data and software, in accordance with a process that was used in case number 19-00195, and to establish deadlines for completion of alternative modeling, filing of comments, response comments, and for staff to file its recommendation. At this particular order would find that the part of our IRP rule 17.7.3.10 obligation to notify of material changes and update action plan is implicated. It states that the utility shall promptly notify the commission and participants of material events that would affect the have the effect of changing the results of the utility's IRP had those events been recognized when the IRP was developed. As part of this notification, the utility shall explain how the events have changed the action plan. So this order would find that material events have occurred since PNM developed its IRP as follows. In case number 19-0018, on February 23rd, 2022, the commission issued an order and stated in that order that in paragraphs 34 and 35, it sets forth the material events that have occurred. And I will read them. Paragraph 34 says, while an evidentiary hearing is not required on PNM's request to extend the operation of SJGS4, the parties' opportunity to conduct discovery related to their concerns about the prudence and reasonableness of PNM's decisions and possible resulting costs should not be delayed until the contemplated rate proceeding takes place. PNM's determination to extend the use of SJGS4 is intended to alleviate PNM's issues in securing enough capacity to meet summer 2022 peak. The extended use of SJGS4 will not resolve the underlying issues related to supply chain issues that have caused the vendors of the replacement resources approved in case number 19-00195 UT to default and invoke force majeure clauses in their contracts. There are ongoing concerns about PNM's ability to meet the summer 2023 peak, notwithstanding PNM's belief that the replacement resources will be online by then, given that the Rockmont project remains in default and a substitute resource may need to be approved. So those are material events that have occurred since PNM filed and developed its IRP. And for this reason, PNM is required by, the proposed order states that PNM is required by 17.7.310 to file a notice of material events and an update to the IRP, including but not limited to an updated loads and resource table and other updated tables contained in the IRP, and an update of all other relevant portions of the IRP. In order to explain the material events that have developed due to the default and invocation of the force majeure clauses by the anticipated replacement generation for SJGS4. And it would set the date of April 27th, which is 3 weeks from today. But again, that date could be changed by the commission. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Judy. Any questions for Judy on this? Any questions at all?
I would move the order.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fishman. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Vice Chair Hall. Any discussion on the motion? I'd just like to mention that, you know, this action was also an outcome of regular resource adequacy meetings that the PRC has been having internally. As Judy outlined, we want to make sure that there is adequate resources beyond summer of 2022. So over the course of the last month or so, we've requested updated load and resource tables beyond summer of 2022. This particular order requires a revised integrated resource plan. We have requested that P&M submit a grid modernization application for automated metering infrastructure. So we have a real robust, I think, plan to assure the people of New Mexico, particularly those ratepayers in P&M service area, that that there is enough resources to cover it, you know, certainly the summer peak period. So I want to thank the internal team that meets regularly to discuss resource adequacy. We've also requested that P&M have routine meetings with our staff. And we will be issuing an order, I'm not sure if it's gone out yet, to request that the other investor-owned utilities have at least one initial meeting to discuss resource adequacy. Again, I commend the team for producing a lot of these recommendations. Any other discussion on the motion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Okay, Judy, roll call vote.
Yes. Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Commissioner Maestas.
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
The order passes 5-0.
Thank you, Judy. All right, let's move to the item that was requested be moved up, and that is item Roman numeral 9, item 5. It's a discussion regarding Western Public Utility Commission's joint action framework on climate change. And Vice Chair Hall, will you be teeing this up for us? Oh,
Yes.
Okay, take it away.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask Isaac or whoever's the appropriate person, put the letter that was distributed out to the commissioners on the screen, if you could, just so you can see it again.
Just 1 sec to pull it up.
Okay. Thanks. And if you could scroll to the text, that would be good. There. Great, thank you. What this is a invitation letter signed by David Danner. He's the chair of the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission. Washington is one of 6 states that he lists there in the letter that have aggressive clean energy standards as we do. And they've grouped together operating under what they loosely call an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And I've presented that to you. And it's it is a memorandum of understanding, even though they don't use that term, by which they seek to find opportunities in regulatory or planning activities throughout the West, conducted by various regional entities like the Western Energy Imbalance Market, or CAISO itself, to have some influence on the rules that are developing in a way that could foster the development of our state's common interests in developing clean energy and having clean energy compliance mandates in our states. So they're inviting us to join their group. I've presented this to you before, and I personally think it would be a very good step to take. They are already, they have found funding and employed a consultant who has participated in CAISO proceedings to develop greenhouse gas emission standards. And I don't know if all those states, but many of them of these 6 states have greenhouse gas emission standards, and we do too. So that kind of activity, I think, is in our interest to make sure that whatever is embedded in rules going forward in any regional entity that the utilities in our states have to participate in or comply with, I think we have an interest in making sure that those rules are something that dovetail with our state requirements. That way, looking forward, we can avoid conflicts between our state's requirements and a regional requirement of some sort being imposed on utilities. So that's the objective of this. And if we could all vote in favor of accepting this invitation, then we can become part of that group and sit in on their meetings and participate in their planning activities. So I'd like to ask if we could vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Any questions for Vice Chair Hall?
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment.
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Is this effort by the Western Utility Commissioners is a little bit more proactive, I guess is the word I'll use, than similar work that's already happening at NARUC. And I think that their sense of urgency and it has a lot of merit. And that as the Western region as a whole can move farther, faster as part of this particular collaboration than if we weren't part of it. So I think it's a really good idea to do this.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Any other questions or comments regarding this potential action to accept this invitation to join the Western Public Utility Joint Action Framework? I just wanted to also weigh in on this. I want to thank Vice Chair Hall for sticking with this initiative. I think it's a welcome collaboration, and it's nice to be recognized by other states, particularly in the West, recognizing us for our work and all the progress that's been made in our transition to clean energy, in our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So I think this is a great endeavor, and we should embrace it and be a part of this group. Any other commissioners? Anybody else? All right, do I hear a motion to accept the invitation from this joint action framework and become an active member of it?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Hall. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Fishman. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. Judy, roll call vote.
Commissioner Maestas,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Just as a procedural matter, would this enable the chair to sign a version of the MOU? Does that motion to approve include the delegation to the chair to sign the MOU?
Yes, that's my intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be, because right now what you provided was an MOU and it didn't have New Mexico's name or New Mexico's signature spot.
Right. I think they can create such a document now that we've accepted.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. And the chair will sign.
Yeah.
And then just, I guess, to follow up on that. So Vice Chair Hall, will you be representing our commission on the body for their meetings?
Yes.
Okay, if there's no objection, Vice Chair Hall will be representing our agency on this joint action framework. All right, hearing no objections, then I will sign the MOU when it's properly formatted, and Vice Chair Hall will represent us. And thank you again, Vice Chair Hall, for your leadership in
Thank
bringing
you
this
very
forward.
much. Thank you. I appreciate
Great
it.
job. All right. Okay, let's go back up to item 8, discussion items. It's kind of cryptic. It says discussion regarding poll. So with that, it has Commissioner Fishman's name. So Commissioner Fishman, I'm being coy and
Yes.
facetious here, but I'll
Quite
let you,
coy.
I'll let you tee this off, sir.
Okay. So Commissioner Byrd had sent out a poll. And I got calls from several of my constituents who were concerned about the poll because the cover letter, well, for a couple of reasons. One, the cover letter was confusing in that it left a distinct impression from folks that it was a poll that was sent out with approval of the entire commission. At least that was their impression. And they felt that the poll was kind of a push poll, pushing, quite frankly, pushing fossil fuels. And they were upset about it, and I had to explain to them that no, the commission did not do that, and that I could see how the cover letter on it was misleading. And my sense on this was that what we should probably do, since there was confusion, is consider sending out a note making clear to the distribution that received the poll that this was not a full commission sanctioned poll. Certainly Commissioner Byrd has the right to send out a poll on his own behalf and get answers. So that's not the issue at all. It's just the issue of this misleading sense that this came from the entire commission. So, quite honestly, my thought was simply that we could go a couple ways. One, the commission can send out a note saying this was not the entire commission, or two, Commissioner Byrd, if he's willing, could send out a note saying, there was some confusion. I want to make it clear this was my poll, not the commission's poll. And with that, I will leave it to the rest of the commission to discuss.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Other commissioners wish to comment?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Byrd, let me hold on because I think you should have an opportunity to respond. Any other commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Hall?
Well, I got comments from a number of constituents, I guess, myself. And, you know, one person was pretty offended by it and was indicating he might go to the Attorney General's office. And I can understand that because it did appear to be misleading. I mean, it said Jeff Bird, you know, at the beginning, but then it said we ordinarily have workshops or some meetings or something like that, but now we are going to use a poll. And so I could agree it was misleading. And my concern is that we had all discussed, commissioners had, I don't know if Commissioner Bird talked to each one of us, but I know he talked to me. And my concern was, I had numerous concerns, but I thought our result was that he wasn't going to send it out. So I guess I was sort of taken by surprise that it was sent out otherwise. And I agree with Commissioner Fishman. He certainly has a right to conduct his own poll. And of course, it wasn't on official stationery, but I think including the statement, I'm a PRC commissioner, kind of anoints the document with the identity of our agency. And I'm not sure what Commissioner Bird was intending, but I think that it wasn't clear enough. And I guess my concern is it has a risk of impinging on our reputation, especially with the subject line, are you ready for more blackouts and brownouts? And honestly, that was an issue that was problematic for us. And I would like to hear from Commissioner Bird why he thought that wasn't something that might, work to degrade rather than improve our reputation. I'd like to understand that part.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Let me just, weigh in as chairman. I was deeply saddened to see the poll. We have gone through, I think, a great extent to assure everyone that this agency is committed to fully implementing the Energy Transition Act. And that we wanted to assure all New Mexicans that they're safe and they're not going to endure rolling blackouts. We went through, I think, a lot to get a handle on the scope and the possible duration of supply chain issues that are affecting replacement projects being online to respond to summer peak. I want to say this agency, since I've come on board, this commission rather, I think has been collegial, professional, committed to getting the work done, work like, making headway in the backlog of rulemakings, coordinating with external agencies. So I really think that we've done a lot to really stabilize and professionalize this agency and roll up our sleeves and get busy and do the business of the people. Commissioner Bird, I know you came to us, you wanted us to sanction this poll. And I think, after looking through it, I think we clearly said it's just, there's no upside, to conducting this poll, by implying that it is another mechanism of the agency to query folks out there about energy in general. But I think what concerned me was that the poll raised some issues I think that were well past, like the immediate threat of rolling blackouts, at least for summer of 2022. It asks about the merger, which has been adjudicated, and even more importantly, it's still pending under appeal before the Supreme Court. So I think it brings up just some issues that that was difficult for this agency to handle, but I really felt like we addressed those issues with professionalism. And so I guess I'm not upset. I'm saddened, and I too have been getting a lot of feedback from constituents that are confused, asking me, "What's your end game?" And I said, I had nothing to do with this, with this poll. But Commissioner Byrd, what I'd like to see is that we just completely cease and desist on this. Do not continue with this poll. I don't know who the recipients are of this poll, but I think for the good of the agency and the commission, at a minimum, a clarification should be sent out to the recipients saying, clearly this is not sanctioned by the Public Regulation Commission. So it pains me, to talk about something, because I'm really proud of how we've been so collegial on so many issues. We've agreed to disagree. We've done so fully embracing civil discourse, and this popped up. So I think Commissioner Byrd deserves to be heard, and I too would like to maybe find out what the motivation was, for this poll. But before I do, I want to ask Commissioner Vicente Aguilar if she has anything to say before we turn it over to Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm listening to this topic, and I would like to learn a little bit more. So I will keep it as that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet.
Well, I too have been receiving those calls. I spoke with Judy about what the confusion was. I was under the impression that cover letter had been specific to me alone, but it obviously wasn't. They got it in the first paragraph, but somehow was missed. I will have to talk to them about that. The poll is done. It was sent out. I will find out what recourse we have as far as sending out a correction to make it clear that it was from me alone and not from the commission, and that the commission in fact had asked for it not to go out on behalf of the commission, because that is the truth. As far as the intent of the poll, when you send out a poll to different people, to a variety of people, you're going to get different reactions. The headline was discussed among the poll workers, the people doing the poll, and like any headline, they wanted shock and awe to get opens. So that was what they chose. I guess I could have said, no, let's do something different, but they were looking for opens. Because when you're doing a poll, you want as many contacts as you can get to make the poll more accurate. Beyond that, I will have to get back with Judy. I will find out what we can do as far as talking to making that correction. If we have to do something in the newspapers, whatever we have to do, I will find out what it is. I will get with Judy and tell her what the plan is, make sure that's copacetic with OGC. And then of course you guys will be notified and kept up to date as you have been to this point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. And, as chairman, I did have a discussion with Office of General Counsel, and I think they were very clear that Office of General Counsel represents the entire commission. They can't represent a subset, contrary to another commissioner or subset of commissioners. So there's really no role for OGC other than telling us, what the implications are of this. But I, for one, don't think it's really prudent for us, given all the progress we've made, to really escalate this. But that is just my opinion. I think Commissioner Byrd was contrite. I think he's willing to correct the record and work towards a correction. However, some of the folks that complained, as Vice Chair Hall mentioned, were alarmed to the point where they're willing to go to the Attorney General, and I am not fueling that fire. I don't know if they're gonna file some kind of Governmental Conduct Act complaint. I don't know, but I think it matters what we do as a commission. So I'm gonna put that out there and see if there's any other comments regarding any other potential actions that this commission should take.
Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement that I don't want to turn this into more than it needs to be. We've got a lot of work to do at the commission. We don't need distractions. I think Commissioner Byrd is, acknowledging that things could have been more clear. And thank you for that, Commissioner Byrd. And I want to just get two other things out there. Commissioner Byrd, you said they and the polling people. And from our prior discussions, I understand the they to be the Rio Grande Foundation. Is that correct?
It's Patrick Brenner. Whether he's on behalf of them or his own group, I'm not sure.
Okay. But in our prior discussions, it had been the Rio Grande Foundation that you said was going to do the poll because it wouldn't cost the commission any money in your original proposal. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were willing to analyze the data for us.
Okay.
We would run the poll, they would analyze it.
Okay. So anyway, my concern is that when I look at the poll and the questions that were asked, it looks very much like a Rio Grande Foundation poll, whether they put it together or not. And my biggest concern is that in essence, because of this confusion, that the commission is kind of acting as the front man for a push poll by the Rio Grande Foundation. And that obviously is a very disturbing result if we were in that position with, for any group, for any nonprofit, whether a free market or conservative or liberal. We just should never be in that position. And, that's what to me made this so uncomfortable. And, but again, I think if we just can send out a correction and do it in a way that's just makes clear to all those people that received the poll that this was not on behalf of the commission, to me, that's a satisfactory remedy for what's happened.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Judy?
Yes. Yeah, just to make it absolutely clear here, Commissioner Byrd did provide the Office of General Counsel the cover email and the survey, and I advised that if the second paragraph had the word we and PRC, that it needed to be approved by the commission. And it was on the agenda 2 weeks ago for commission approval, and it was tabled at that time. But our counsel was to not send out the email with the we or the PRC included unless the commission had as a body approved it.
Judy. Vice Chair Hall.
Mr. Chair, just to follow on Commissioner Fishman's comments. Yeah, my understanding from my personal conversations with Commissioner Byrd was that the survey was going to be conducted by the Rio Grande Foundation because they had an extensive mailing list. And I guess, I believe that we don't need any more theater here at the commission. We've had a lot of, kind of incendiary things said about us in the news and have had to try to respond and provide clear information to the public. But I would still like to hear from Commissioner Byrd about what was in his head about that. And another issue that was drawn to my attention by the one person who wrote to me on this matter was conflict of interest. They just said, they forwarded the letter to me and said conflict of interest. And I think he must be alluding to the fact that Commissioner Byrd is running for state land office, and one of the questions pertained to whether or not the survey taker approved of having renewable energy on state land, or what type of energy did they want on state land. So I don't know whether that's a conflict of interest or maybe a possible abuse of office or something. But in any case, there are legal issues that are raised that are beyond our authority to address as a body. But to the extent Commissioner Byrd is vulnerable to challenges from the public on these matters, that doesn't help the commission either. And I would like to know why, when Commissioner Byrd was telling me it was Rio Grande Foundation, which is not a bipartisan organization, I think, in their research. But I could be corrected if Commissioner Byrd would like to correct me on that. I would just like to understand why he decided it was okay to do under these circumstances.
Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hall. Well, again, it goes back to how you read the questions, I guess. The questions asked, and then are you 100% in favor or against? So it gives you an opportunity to show what the people of New Mexico are thinking, hence the poll. And so they could answer it. And I believe there was a couple of places where they could write in a short explanation. I believe that was still in there. And so they could express their concerns. As far as the specific question you asked about, I'm not aware of that question as to how it plays into all of this. But what was I thinking is still what I said when I started this 2 months ago. Remember, it was going to be from the commission through this office or through my office, and council thought, well, let's get everybody to vote, which is fine. So initially the poll was being sent out by the PRC. We were going to fund it, and then the Rio Grande was just going to use their staff to compile the data. They decided to go ahead and run the poll. I said, well, you got to make the corrections, which apparently they made part of it, not all of it. And so here we are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Any other comments? Judy,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
thank you for the time. I think there's a clear distinction when we have a role as a public regulation commissioner. And as a sitting commissioners to run for public office at the same time, these type of questions, messages, they intertwine our work. Any citizen can run for public office, whatever office they would like to seek. And they have their own agenda. So I think Judy needs to, hello? Oh, I think Judy needs to have a meeting with her staff in General Counsel's office and make sure that they have a guideline in place for the rest of the year, because the general election is in November. And make sure that if anything should come up, that all the commissioners are aware of what is going on, whether it's having a meeting in Four Corners or having a meeting in Las Cruces. I think our lawyers in General Counsel, they need to step up and guide us. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to tell us you cannot do that. It's against the rule. It's against the a policy that we have adopted. That's what the policy is for. And it also sends a message to the rest of our staff members. Our chief of staff, our division directors, do not be afraid to step up and say, I don't think this is allowable. I don't think this is going to be good in the public eye. I don't think this is a good perception. I think we need to solidify our guidelines for the entire agency. Right now, as I see it, it's very lenient. And there's a couple of actions that has occurred, and I think we need to regroup in the General Counsel's office and, the rest of the organization and see how we proceed from here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
Okay, I guess I do need to say something else here. I understood very clearly from Judy that the message from General Counsel was, do not send out this survey unless the full commission votes on it. And the full commission had not voted on it. I don't know how much more clear they can be. And it's not within General Counsel's purview to provide political type advice or PR type advice, like this doesn't look good for the agency. They have to constrict themselves to legal advice. I think we're all elected officials and we can appreciate what's good or bad politically. And we all did react that way to Jeff, or at least I did. And I believe I've heard Commissioner Fishman say he did, and I believe Mr. Chair did. So I don't think it's a question of there being lack of guidance at all for Commissioner Byrd. And I also think that it's concerning that Commissioner Byrd would trust another organization to put out a survey when he wasn't aware of what all the questions were. But nevertheless, they, at least that one question did raise the issue of whether or not this was politically motivated because it pertained to state lands, and Commissioner Byrd is running for state land commissioner. And I believe that's why the constituent who wrote to me said conflict of interest. So, we're not here to mete out punishment on Commissioner Byrd, but at the same time, I think we all have to take responsibility that is referred to by Commissioner Vicente Aguilar that comes with our role. And I think that's the part that bothers me here. It sounds like Commissioner Byrd, having heard everything he did from us and at the commission, and that includes the general counsel's office, decided to give a go-ahead for this poll, not even knowing apparently what some of the questions were, or what at least one question was. And we really shouldn't be doing that. And so I'm glad and pleased that he is willing to send out a correction document, because I think that will make the rest of us feel a lot better. And I too felt the feeling of sadness, because I feel like we've all gotten along so well, even with our different viewpoints. And I think we still will, but this kind of, cast some doubt that I think we can get past. I think we can clear up, but it's unfortunate, to say the least. And I hope for Commissioner Byrd's sake that things don't go further by some member of the public, because he's vulnerable to that.
Commissioner Maya.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to be, again, absolutely clear. We in general counsel represent the commission as a whole. We don't represent individual commissioners. Advice that we provide is what is it legal and in the best interest for the commission as a whole. We clearly, Russell and I specifically advised Commissioner Byrd, if he wanted to send the email and the poll the way it was written, that it needed to be a commission vote and it needed to be on the agenda. And it was on the agenda for a vote. We never sanctioned it to go out the way it was. I hope that's clear. In terms of providing advice to commissioners who are running for other political office, we do not provide advice to individual commissioners on their pursuit of another political office. That is a personal issue that they could hire outside counsel to deal with. There's many reporting requirements and disclosure requirements and Secretary of State requirements, but we don't advise with any of that ever. So I hope that's clear, and our guidance was clear, and they're really that's all I can say.
Judy, I've got a question for you. I think Ronald Reagan once said, "Trust but verify," in the context of nuclear weapons. So we need to verify the correction that goes out. So will Office of General Counsel work with Commissioner Byrd to assure the rest of the commissioners that this correction goes out? And can we get an update? We're not going to meet next week, but in 2 weeks. Is that a reasonable timeline?
I agree, Commissioner Maestas. We can, as Office of General Counsel, place this matter back on the agenda for the next meeting. At that time, Commissioner Byrd can show or provide documentation to the other commissioners what he has done. And I think you have all stated what you would like to see printed in his statement, and I think he can do the statement on his own and then come back and report to the commission as a whole.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Byrd, thank you. As to that, I will make sure that my commissioners see what is going to be sent before so. Once I know what we can do, you guys will be kept up to date, just like I have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Byrd. Anything else on this matter? I just, before we move on to the next agenda item, I want to, as chair of this commission, I want to reiterate that this commission and the agency is fully committed to implementing the Energy Transition Act. That is our mandate. And, if there are groups out there that are aligned with the fossil fuel industry, and my impression is that they don't support the Energy Transition Act, and that's fine. But I don't think that this agency and this commission should be associated with any interests, special interests out there that are contrary to our legislative mandates, ETA and others. And so, and I also want to say that since I've been on this commission, Commissioner Byrd, your voting record has been in support of the Energy Transition Act. And so I think that's why I was saddened, because, reading the leading questions that seem to, question the ETA, bring out the prospects of blackouts, was uncharacteristic, I think, of your voting record. I think you have a very good voting record in support of the Energy Transition Act. And so, anyway, I wanted to state that as well for the record. And we'll revisit this at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll have a retraction or a correction that'll be satisfactory to all the commission before it goes out. And Office of General Counsel will work directly with Commissioner Byrd on this. Let's learn from this, put it behind us, and continue the good work I think that we've been doing for the last year and a half. So any final concluding comments on this issue before we move on to the next agenda item? All right, then let's move on. We have another item, I think, Commissioner Fishman, discussion regarding organizational policy for press interviews.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with Arthur O'Donnell. Yeah, Arthur's on. And he was talking about, he was talking about having a press interview that he had scheduled that he needed to get to. And, it occurred to me that we don't, at least as far as I can recall, we haven't expressed a clear policy to the organization about talking to the press and how and when. And quite frankly, what so frequently happens when you have a lot of folks talking to the press from an organization, they have different viewpoints. And a lot of times what happens is the story turns into how people within an organization disagreed rather than focusing on the issue and forwarding the issue and getting a good resolution. So quite frankly, I asked Arthur, I said, gee, please don't talk to the press. This is something we should discuss at the commission. And, quite frankly, my viewpoint is that commissioners should be able to talk to the press however they feel. The PIO that we hire should be able to, and our chief of staff should be able to. But that it could become quite confusing if the rest of the organization is talking to the press. Just having the five of us at our disagreements could be a problem. But I have to say, the commission has, in my time, has behaved quite responsibly in how they've talked to the press. But I wanted to put that up for discussion, and maybe this is my own paranoia, and I'm being, again, I'm being too cautious, but I think it's worth us kind of having an understanding on the commission about how we want to handle those kinds of issues. And this just happened to come up in talking with Arthur, and we all know how important Arthur has been to a lot of the progress we've been making. So this is certainly no just Arthur, certainly no ding on Arthur or anyone else. It just seemed to me a policy issue we should take a few minutes and have clarity on amongst ourselves.
Commissioner Mayestas,
Yes, Judy.
I just wanted to let everyone know that HR does have a press policy. It's policy number 13. It looks like it hasn't been revised since April 2004. Just emailed it to everyone right now, and you can pull it up on the screen if Isaac would do that. But it definitely does say that press releases, such as formal press releases, are cleared and processed through the chief of staff prior to dissemination, and that all media inquiries should be directed to the chief of staff, and that the chief of staff is the primary contact. And there is an exception that commissioners can make news statements, and they are exempted from the policy. And it also talks about that requests for personal interviews, radio or talk shows, or special feature stories are subject to the approval of the division director, chief of staff, and or the commission.
So Judy and Mr.
Yes.
Chair, I want to point out that Arthur, in making that appointment for the press interview, had our PIO, Sarah, had referred the press to Arthur on this one. So I don't want to make it sound like anyone was just, going rogue or cowboy here. So, and I think that was consistent with the policy that's in place. So I just have to point out that, what I'm raising here, it probably takes it a step further and just says, beyond the chief of staff and commissioners, let's leave the press contacts there. And so in a way, I am taking that a step further in what I'm suggesting. And I'm certainly open to any perspectives the rest of the commission has on that.
Well, Commissioner Fishman, before we continue this discussion, would you be interested in placing this on the agenda? Because, that is kind of a stale policy. And from my perspective, there's other issues like opinion pieces that certain commissioners have authored, including me. And perhaps we should address that. Also, some of the reporters that cover the PRC beat, they don't, whoever's involved in that piece may share that a certain filing has been made, but the reporters don't go into our e-docket and verify it. And right now we have offered training to reporters for the Santa Fe New Mexican and the Albuquerque Journal in how they can navigate through the e-docket and get these documents instead of relying on, whoever they're talking to. I think we should look at this in a bigger context. A lot has changed since April of 2004. The proliferation of social media, opinion pieces. And I can tell you, these reporters have no interest in going to the PIO. I mean, they establish relationships with individual commissioners, and it's a tried and true method. It's easier for them. They're on deadlines. I think we know kind of the reasons for them, covering a lot of what we do. But I would support putting this on the agenda, this policy, and perhaps we can entertain some amendments to it. I like the exemption that the commissioners have, but if this body feels that there should be some accountability, then we can discuss that. The last op-ed I think I authored, I opened it up to the full commission because I don't feel comfortable being a single author on an opinion piece without the commission looking at it or even joining as co-authors. And so Commissioner Fishman, would you be interested in putting this on the agenda maybe in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that'd be fine. And I think all the issues can be covered quite quickly. And I want to emphasize also that the reporters from the New Mexican and the Journal, I feel, have generally been very responsible in their coverage. So again, I'm not impugning anybody here. But, I think we want to have stuff in place that keeps us on a safe path. So.
And I guess, Commissioner Fishman, I have read all the coverage of this agency, especially when, commissioners have been quoted. And I think that we have all been consistent in our remarks. I think the only time that perhaps we had differences is when we were discussing the possibility of supporting a piece of legislation to remove the transportation function from the agency. I was against it, but Vice Chair Hall and I think you, Commissioner Fishman, supported the idea of streamlining the agency. But we discussed that on the record. It was not anything that we were kind of holding close to our vest and that we let it out, during the course of an interview with the reporter. So I think that we have been, very professional, consistent, and discreet about our comments on the record when speaking to individual reporters. So I don't have an issue with that, but I would like to maybe revisit this policy and ensure that we tighten it up. We have a vacant PIO right now. We need to really come up with an interim policy. How do we operate in the absence of a PIO? The Chief of Staff's not here today, but I think when he does come back and we discuss this, maybe we can even talk about an interim policy when we have a vacancy in the PIO position.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask right now, I'll ask to put it on the agenda 2 weeks from now. And Judy, if you could email, or if it's already been emailed, the current policy, I'll just put some comments on it and get the discussion started with whomever you designate as appropriate in General Counsel office to review that with. Obviously, I'll review it with our Chief of Staff, Wayne, as well before the next meeting, and at least have some issues teed up, and invite commissioners to send me a note if they've got any particular issue they want to cover.
Yes, Commissioner Fishman and members of the commission, I emailed you a Word version, and you could comment on the document or make red line changes and send them And then we could, incorporate all the comments and the red lines for a discussion item.
Okay. Is there any restriction on me? Well, I don't, the commissioners know if they've got some comments they want to send, then please
Yes.
do, and we'll
Well,
incorporate.
Yes, each commissioner can send OGC their individual comments. Then OGC can create a document that has all of the comments in one for discussion on the
Okay.
agenda.
And then, Brad and Wayne obviously will want your comments to come in, and we'll get a chance to sit down and talk it through a little bit before we get to that next meeting. So we have the issues pretty clearly identified in front of us 2 weeks from now.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. And I'd also like Sarah Valencia. I realize she just started in human resources, but Sarah, are you on? Sarah Valencia? Okay, maybe not. She's not required to anymore to be on these meetings, but Judy, if you can maybe get with Sarah Valencia, because I think she would bring a lot of insight, having served as PIO in terms of any potential changes to this policy.
Yes, I think she would have good ideas, and I'll ask for her input.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Fishman, thank you for bringing this issue forward.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
I see Art O'Donnell has his hand up. Maybe.
Oh, sorry, I
There
can't
he is.
see that, but
Yeah.
Art, do you want to?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Chair. I'm sorry, my video is being wonky. Two things. I'm here to help the commission, and anytime that I've spoken with a reporter, whether it's a trade press or what we call mainstream daily journalism, it's been at the request of Sarah, basically, right? So I mean, this is not something that I'm taking on in any kind of initiative. I'm just here to help explain commission policies as they have been addressed in formal proceedings, and to give reporters some contextual background as to what's happening around the country and in other states, right? So that they have it. Just so that you know, prior to my conversation with Commissioner Fishman, I had also done an interview with Kevin Avella Robinson from the Albuquerque Journal on the issues of interconnection that are not supposed to run until next Monday's business insert. So that interview was already done. He was going to get back to me to verify any quotes. I'm not quite sure how to proceed on that. The interview has been done. He's going to write what he's going to write, but just wanted to let you know so that it doesn't seem like, well, we just had this discussion and here you are appearing in the newspaper. So.
Yeah, Arthur, I just want to emphasize he's been totally transparent about everything. And certainly this is not any kind of ding or anything else on how Arthur handled the situation. And when I brought it up, it was certainly kind of news to Arthur. As I said before, I think they'd been following policy because the PIO had referred Arthur to them, so to the press. So again, I don't think anybody's misbehaved here. I just seemed like an opportunity to review the policy.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chair,
Commissioner.
this is Sarah.
Yes, Sarah, yes. Welcome.
I was listening on YouTube, so I just logged in.
So will you help us maybe update this policy?
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. Thank you. And we miss you as our PIO, but I know you've gone on to bigger and better things.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd be happy to help in any way and to answer any questions. I had reached out in this specific instance just for the commission, so I had reached out to Arthur as a subject matter expert in the community solar rulemaking. We had some questions that were particular to that rule that was passed last week, and I wasn't able to answer all of the technical questions involved.
Thank you, Sarah, for that. So let's go ahead and move on. Vice Chair Hall, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, only that I think it's probably a fine idea to do. And well, while reporters do occasionally shop around to see if they can dig up different angles of a story, I guess that's something we'll all have to live with at least until the commission starts being appointed. Maybe they won't be feel so willing to talk to the press. I don't know. But in any case, generally, when I think of Arthur speaking to the press, I'm relieved because I know that whatever information he gives is going to be accurate. So I was only going to mention that. And it sounds like he's certainly, no surprise, been following the process that we do have on the books. So, I'm glad of that. But I agree with Steve. We should probably look at this policy to see if there's something we can do to avoid shopping around by or just alert people to the fact that reporters might shop around and try to find different angles and when there aren't any. So that's all I had to say.
Thanks, Vice Chair Hall. Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. Go ahead, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, maybe the policy was revised in 2004, but my recollection is that it was revised every time new commissioners have been coming on board. I recall that I voted that only the commissioners, the chief of staff, and the PIO can talk to the media. That's my recollection, and that would have been 2013, 2014, around that time. But Mr. Chairman, if you submit an op-ed in the newspaper with your name, just your name, then it's fine with me. If any candidates use just a plain piece of paper without using the agency letterhead, I think that's the proper thing to do. But I totally stand against Arthur O'Donnell. I don't think it's right for him to go to the media. And he is not an elected individual. He clearly communicates what is the technical portion of the community solar. And if he can clearly communicate, he can clearly communicate with the commissioners that he's getting press calls. And we don't know how long this was going on. And we also need to retrain our employees what the policy is, that only certain individuals can speak to the media. And this has nothing to do with the outside reporters. This is something that fell through the cracks with our organization. We don't need to talk about the media outside. They're doing their job, and there's no comment on that. But I would like and the other thing, Mr. Chairman, I did not get an email that our chief of staff was going to be absent today. I think he should send an email and let us know who is in charge. So whoever's in charge, please relay the message that I didn't get an email that he was going to be absent. So, and this is part of rebuilding the organization. This is part of making sure that everybody understands what's going to happen down the road. There's going to be some things that we're going to be sidetracked, and that's common. We are an organization that's continuing to learn, continuing to communicate, continuing to make corrections. And I'm, I would like to be at the table to say, this is not going the right direction. Something has come up, and it's all about communication and collaboration. And it's time to regroup, and it's okay. This is why it's so important. This is why it is so important to have 5 elected commissioners to speak their voice, to speak their mind, to utilize their leadership, to inform their staff members. We need to regroup. We need to change this process. I feel the importance of making sure that we are here for the people of New Mexico. And Mr. Chairman, I don't want to put anything against people that are running for public office. I feel you have a right. I don't think we should put a policy out there where we have put a cap on them. I don't think that is right. Any citizen can run for public office, but we just need to be informed at the basic level, and then that's when we bring in our expertise, our general counsel. Is this a green light or not? That's what I'm getting at, an organizational structure to regroup and focus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. And I think the commissioner brought up a good point in that, we as commissioners don't always have to accommodate the timelines of reporters. We can ask for questions in advance, and we can have appropriate subject matter experts answer those questions. And if it doesn't meet the timeline for a certain reporter, well, so be it. Then we don't go on the record if they want to go into the weeds on particular subjects. And so I think that's another thing that we should be mindful of, and it's our prerogative to do that. And just the last thing is that if anything's pending and we're asked to comment on it, we need to be very careful, obviously. We don't want to be perceived as prejudging issues that we haven't adjudicated yet. And so I think it'd be good for us to have this broader discussion in the context of the entire policy. All right, any other comments so we can move on? Okay, let's do that. Let's move on to communications with the Chief of Staff, Brad Borman. I guess you are going to present on behalf of Wayne.
Yes, he has asked me to be here, and let me put my camera on. He has asked me to present anything that he had to relay. He does not have anything to relay. Although the one thing I would raise just on my own, and hopefully Wayne doesn't smack me around for this, I just wanted to remind you guys that next week is the NMSU Issues Conference. And I don't know if any of the commissioners are planning to attend. I can tell you that several of the lawyers are planning to attend.
Okay, is that it, Brad?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Wait, I do have one other thing. I think that, and I don't know if John Reynolds is on right now.
Here.
But I think he was going to discuss briefly let me just see. He was going to discuss briefly a report on last week's inaugural meeting of the AG's Resource Adequacy Task Force. John, are you available?
He's getting himself set up in the hot seat there.
Okay. Okay. Oh, he's in the room. Okay.
Yes, he is. Sorry, Brad. Yeah, he's right here. And John, welcome, John. John's going to present a report on the Office of Attorney General's, is it Energy Assurance Task Force? Is that the kind of the short title?
I think it's resource adequacy task.
Okay, well, John Reynolds, take it away.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, good morning. It has a longer name than that, and lawyers, I think, wrote this name. The task force of the Attorney General is the Energy Security Investigation and Emergency Preparedness Task Force.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
John, could you please hold the microphone a little closer? You don't have to look at you don't have to be looking over your shoulder because I see you as looking straight forward. So, but
That's right, I see that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better.
So the kickoff meeting for this task force was March 29th. Jack Sidler and I attended. There were some aid organizations like the Red Cross, the Mortgage Finance Authority, and AARP. Utilities were represented by PNM, by New Mexico Gas Company, and the statewide Electric Co-op Association. And there were some local government officials and emergency managers at the local level. This was the kickoff meeting. As I mentioned, the Attorney General set the stage for the task force. If I could verbalize where I think that the Attorney General is trying to go with this, the emergency preparedness issue seems to be primary, and the focus is on the community's ability to respond to extreme heat events and a curtailment of energy supply. The energy security investigation portion of the task force is generally about the state's road forward on energy transition and how well prepared the state expects to be as we proceed down the road, and how we plan to maintain resilience and reliability of the grid. But this meeting was, I would say, largely about the emergency preparedness element. Besides the PRC, Jack and I, the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, and Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department, which is the state's energy office. The three of us provided a brief presentation about our general roles in this context, and I addressed resource adequacy in a general way. The ensuing discussion was about emergency preparedness largely, and the concern expressed at the local level about resources and the ability to respond to an emergency heat event, an extreme heat event, and the impact on maintaining police and fire and communications, and importantly on the vulnerable population. How are we going to maintain services to the people that rely on it the most for health reasons, for a variety of reasons? The next meeting, that is largely, my takeaway from this, and obviously an important discussion. The next meeting is planned, but there's no date for that meeting at this point. The issues that were teed up for the next meeting include, again, more deep down drill into how we're going to address the needs of the vulnerable population, a discussion about worst case scenarios, and also general discussion about backup power needs or opportunities. So that, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, is a summary of that first meeting.
John, and thanks to Jack too for representing the agency at this this task force. Any questions for John Reynolds regarding his report? Any questions at all?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, I guess.
Vice Chair Hall, go ahead.
John, was there particular interest in what the PRC has the authority to do, such as require utilities to carry out preventative measures like vegetation management? Or was the thrust of the conversation about emergency management once a wildfire has started, for example? I mean, what was this restricted to wildfires, or did this have to do with outages and what were there any questions directed at the PRC as to what their usefulness is at different stages in a heat emergency?
Commissioner Hall and Mr. Chair, Commissioners, there were no questions directed at the PRC in this meeting. The issues you mentioned about vegetation management and so forth, those were not addressed at this stage. Again, this was a kickoff meeting for the Attorney General to set the stage. And most of the discussion was about a response to an emergency, regardless of the cause or the source of the emergency, whether it's a wildfire, extreme weather. And so those questions you raised have not been teed up yet, Commissioner Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for John? Okay, Brad, anything else before we move on?
No, I think that would conclude the Chief of Staff report.
Okay, and happy birthday to your cat. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I will pass it along. He's now 10.
All right, let's move on to communications with General Counsel. Judy, do you have anything, any announcements or anything?
Yes, two issues, sorry, that we do have them, but okay, as Brad mentioned, next week is the current issues CLE at the El Dorado, and the commission voted to approve the calendar, which had next week's meeting canceled. So just refreshing everyone. So now we're on to what is the date of the following meeting? Is it April 20th or is it April 22nd? I know there was some discussion from Commissioner Maestas regarding an April 22nd open meeting in Farmington. So we need that clarified. That's the first issue. And then the second issue is the Transportation Division would like to set up their quarterly revocation hearing, and they send out the notice a month in advance. So the possibilities of dates are, let's see, May 25th, May 18th, or June 8th. And so before I tell the Transportation Division that it's okay to send out the notice, I wanted the commission to weigh in as to which one of those dates are okay or not okay. So those are the two matters we have.
Judy, do you want an answer now on the dates for transportation?
Well, if it was going to be like May 18th, we would need to send out the notice on April 18th, and we're not having a meeting before then. So yes, I would like an answer regarding May 18th. If it's not going to be May 18th, then we can wait and decide at the next meeting whether it's May 25th or June 8th.
Judy, Mr. Chair, can I ask Judy a question?
Yep.
What is the particular event for transportation that we're talking about?
You'll probably recall that quarterly or bi-yearly, they have a hearing regarding financial responsibility. They send out notice to motor
yeah.
carriers that do not have current financial responsibility on file.
Right.
A lot of them respond, some of them do not, and then there's a revocation hearing to revoke the operating authority
Yeah,
of
yeah.
those that,
Yeah.
okay, you remember.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. So that's this hearing. They want to schedule it, and the possible dates are May 18th, May 25th, or June 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm thinking let's defer that until the next meeting.
That's fine. And then regarding the April 22nd versus April 20th open meeting, has that been decided by the commission? As far as we know, we haven't been informed that it's any other day except for April 20th, which is 2 weeks from today.
Mr. Chair, I'm not available that day. So I won't be going.
April
I
20th is a Wednesday, 2 weeks from today. And then April 22nd was the date that Commissioner Maestas
right.
had a tour scheduled in Farmington.
Yeah, no, that won't work for me. 20th would, but 22nd is out. I have an event that day. And also, I'm not available on May 25th with respect to the transportation meeting. I'll be out of town at a seminar, educational seminar for getting credits. So I can give you that much information.
Okay, just to be clear, I was planning to go to the Four Corners on April 27th through the 29th.
Oh, 27th, not the 22nd. I thought is that what you said, Judy, the 27th?
I was under the impression, and we were under the impression it was the 22nd. And now that I've gotten clarification that Commissioner Maestas is thinking April 27th.
Oh.
So that is a Wednesday.
I'm scheduled to be a speaker at a conference in California then. Sorry. You can go without me, I guess. You can do it without me.
Okay, Judy, let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, so then the meeting's on for April 20th, and we will discuss the following meeting at that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Anything else? Any questions for General Counsel?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes, I have a question for Judy. So we've been going back and forth on the out-of-town meetings, open meetings. Can you be clear on that? What's the latest that you have for us? I want to be clear.
Well, you will recall that prior to the pandemic, the commission would vote to schedule an out-of-town meeting in a variety of locations on a date that was agreed upon. And that, I would think, would be the same policy now, although the place that you would vote on to have it, I would recommend have a hybrid option as well, so that the public can view on Zoom, or participants who are unable to travel to that location could also participate. So that's my recommendation at this time. There's just been discussion about possible dates and possible locations, but as far as I know, and the commission has never voted on a specific date or a specific location to have a non-Santa Fe open meeting.
Thank you, Judy. I would like to ask Brad to take a message and relay the message to our Chief of Staff. He is the lead person when it comes to scheduling an out of town or out of Santa Fe open meetings. That's the way that it has been handled before. That way the communication is clear. He needs to step forward and say, these are the dates, and he needs to bring it to the commission so that we can vote on it. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam,
Vicente Aguilar. Yes, Brad.
I will take that message to the Chief of Staff.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments for General Counsel? All right, let's move on to communications with commissioners. Commissioners, anyone? I just wanted to let everybody know that the New Mexico Rural Electric Co-op Association is having their managers meeting, I believe, tomorrow. And our Chief of Staff, and I think John Reynolds, I don't know, is anyone else, John, going to attend besides? Yeah, so they've invited the Chief of Staff and key staff and utility division to attend. So that's what we have on the calendar this week. I may attend briefly. We've had an ongoing discussion with the co-ops, as you know, regarding the supply chain issues, how they're mitigating those supply chain issues. I've learned a great deal about their vendors and how they're getting critical supplies. Not that they're out of the woods yet, because some co-ops have exclusive contracts with vendors. Others use a more traditional open procurement. And so hopefully we'll learn more about the plight of rural electric co-ops in dealing with these supply chain issues. So we might have more about that. And we'll be hearing from our Chief of Staff and John Reynolds in the next meeting about the outcome of that particular meeting with the statewide Rural Electric Co-op Association. Any other communications with commissioners? Anything else? Any announcements?
Mr.
Wow.
Chair, I have a question about that co-op meeting. Is that can one attend that virtually, or is it in person?
Yes, it is hybrid. So you can participate. I don't have any Zoom information, but maybe John, can you provide that? Yeah, John Reynolds can provide that.
Are commissioners invited, or, I mean, it'd be interesting to listen in.
No, not specifically. I think what they really wanted to do is meet Wayne as our new Chief of Staff, but in case anything comes up, they also wanted John Reynolds and appropriate staff to also attend.
I see. Okay, no problem.
All right, any other communications from commissioners? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.